Oh, look, good feelings all around, and why not? What a win for the 49ers. What a day for Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. And, we always start, Larry, with just the facts. Well, some of the facts surrounding the statistical accomplishments and the measurements look, let's face it. I don't think anyone, even Brock last night, went to the podium. He was asked about passer rating. He's like, I really don't understand it. I don't think any of us do. Right. I don't think any of us can come up with the formula that gives a perfect score of 158.3 or whatever the hell it is, whatever a perfect passer rating score is. Boy, he has done it. In the past 2 weeks, these are just the facts, Larry. In the past 2 weeks against the Jags and the Bucks, Purdy has gone 40 of 51 for an average of 315 passing yards with 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he's averaging better than 12 yards per attempt. These are significant numbers. These are Mahomesian. These are top shelf liquor numbers for any quarterback in any system, with any coach, with any amount of talent around them. These are the sorts of numbers that you produce in video games in back-to-back weeks more often than you do on an actual NFL field.
He's been incredible. He's been absolutely outstanding. And, it's funny. Some of these press conferences, a lot of times it's just like an exercise in futility. We ask some questions. They give us kind of pat answers. And, everybody writes their article or does their YouTube show or goes and does their radio or television show. We all move on, and that's it. Occasionally, something truly, interesting and relevant gets broached. And sometimes you don't even realize it when you're hearing it, Damon. It's like, we're so like kind of conditioned for the exercise as media people, like, we're going to ask this question. They're going to give us that answer. We're going to jot it down. We're going to, it's like everybody's so beaten down. But listening to George Kittle last night at the podium, he called attention to a question that I had asked Brock on Thursday, and that he felt it was really significant, and he loved to hear Brock's answer. I'm gonna play this for you real quick here so you guys can hear this. This is from Thursday's presser, and I asked Purdy just a basic question, which is, how do you balance it? How do you balance the mindset of like what Kyle's been telling him lately? I'm sure coming out of the bye week, take care of the ball, don't turn it over, and then not play timidly or fearfully, and still kind of let it rip. Like, let it rip, but don't let it rip to the other team. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rip, but don't dare turn it over. And it's like, and there's so much on the line. You got the ball in your hands. You're a quarterback, and you got to balance this whole mindset of, man, I got to play the way I played to have the success I've had leading up to this point in my career, high school, college, and then early in the pros. And yet I can't turn it over. So I asked him about it, and listen to this little exchange here and tell me,
Brock, how do you balance, the mindset of stay aggressive versus be patient, take care of the football, and be, take the check down? How do you balance that and still stay aggressive?
Yeah. It's a mindset, I'd say, just playing without fear. The fear of failure is something that, I feel like I've learned over the years, especially in college. If you go out there and have that mentality of, I don't want to mess up, then you start playing timid, and then you're, obviously not playing like yourself, like you have growing up your whole life with that competitive edge. So that's one thing that I've learned for sure is to, try to take out fear, throw it out the window, and play clear-minded, play like a surgeon, do what Kyle's asking of me, but being smart with the ball at the same time, but also having the mentality of, playing fearless. And that doesn't mean play reckless, but be smart with the ball, play within the offensive scheme. If something happens where it's off schedule, play ball. So I'm still learning that, honestly, but I feel like that's how I look at it right now.
Really good answer there from Purdy. I thought the best part of that, Damon, was the truthful part of, I'm still working on it, man. It's like, it's not like I've arrived at a place and now I'm here and it will all be fine. It's like, this is a constant battle, and I'm still working at, letting it rip but at the same time being cognizant of take care of the ball. And to me, that's his kind of value proposition in a nutshell right there. It's like, that's what he needs to do to break through from nice little story to this guy is the legitimate long-term quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers that can and will win them Super Bowls in the future.
More than humility, which is easy to hear there, I hear accountability. And I like that very much in a quarterback. I like someone who is accountable for their mistakes and understands that an awful lot of the game's fortune lays in the decisions that they make from their position, and they have a responsibility to make the right decisions. A couple of weeks ago, when things were going wrong for the Niners and they had lost 3 in a row and he had thrown the handful of interceptions over those games, you made a point that I completely agreed with. When you basically said every coach has an easier job reeling in the aggressive than trying to coach aggressive into someone who is a little bit more gun shy. And not to just compare Brock Purdy to Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think that there's an awful lot of, boy, that's the teeter-totter that both of those guys are on, isn't it? Garoppolo was afraid to make the mistake and played accordingly. Purdy is not afraid to make a mistake. He's conscious of it. He is accountable for it. He's not afraid of it, though. And he understands that in order to make money, sometimes you need to gamble. He has won on some bad bets that he made. That first Jacksonville touchdown, right? He threw that thing, is breaking all the cardinal rules of quarterbacking, but Ayuk caught it, so no harm, no foul. But he understands that that's one of his worst throws of the day, and Kyle finally has the ball of clay that is just moldable. I mean, it's perfect. This guy and Kyle seem to be as working together in harmony as some of the best quarterback and coaching combinations that we can remember. They seem to be completely on the same page. And that's why some unbelievable statistics and moments are being produced so early in a career. And I think the biggest theme of my show yesterday, Larry, was simply like, if this is just the start of it, like, where could this go? What if, for real, what we're looking at is something that is not a flash in the pan of a year or two, but this turns into, a 5, 6, 7 years of this? That would be one of the single greatest finds in discovery in sports history, with the final pick of the draft. And I just think that we now need to completely get over the fact of where he was drafted. It doesn't matter. It's where he sits in the hierarchy of actual NFL quarterbacks right now. Are there still some hurdles he has yet to clear? Yeah, you could say that those are the same hurdles that Kyle Shanahan still has to clear, proving that they can win a game trailing by more than 8 in the fourth quarter. But they're also a team that's in a situation where they're not in that situation very much, which is a blessing. So you shouldn't be rooting for that hard game to come around as much as you should be rooting for this team to come out with a first, second, and third quarter game plan that kind of turned the fourth quarter into a snooze fest. And they got the talent to do that, man. This is an unbelievable beginning. And again, just the facts, Larry, just the facts through Sunday's game. He is the first NFL quarterback with he's first in NFL QBR. He's first in passer rating. He's first in yards per attempt. He's third in completion percentage. He's tied for 5th in touchdown passes, and he's 6th in passing yards per game. These are all the important statistics for a quarterback, and he is in the top 6 in all of them. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a guy who yesterday joined a conversation that was Joe, Steve, and no one. Now it's Joe, Steve, and Brock in terms of perfect passer rating. And it's been fun to watch. It really has.
Amazing thing. The only thing I'll disagree with what you said there is I don't think that Garoppolo himself played timid. I think Garoppolo played loose. I think Kyle coached timid with Garoppolo. I think Kyle didn't, look at the way when the Niners, you go back to the first 2019 playoff game, and Garoppolo threw a couple of really bad passes early in that game. Kyle just took the ball completely out of his hands for the next two playoff games. He just said, "Oh my God, this is my quarterback, and I want to go to the Super Bowl, and so I'm going to coach. I'm going to coach him by just running Raheem Mostert, and I'm just going to run and run and run some more." I think they had 9 total passes in like 2 games, and they got to the Super Bowl. And
look, I understand the point you're making, but I've also now seen Jimmy in another uniform and in another situation. And oddly, it wasn't a very good situation. Everything went wrong.
He's just not very good. I mean, he's just middle of the road, period.
Right.
But I think
he's not even in Brock Purdy's weight class as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, it was clear. It's funny. Jimmy was very popular in the room, of course, with the guys. And Kittle and Juszczyk were 2 of his best friends. And they never wanted to say anything negative about Jimmy, and really wouldn't, because they really had loyalty as friends, beyond it superseded football and that kind of thing. But man, when the games started to, string together towards the end of the year, and Kittle kept putting up these historic numbers, I think he had to acknowledge, and I think Juice did too, that, even though they loved Jimmy and Jimmy was their friend, that this rookie who had been thrust into the action in week 13 only because of an injury was actually better. And they knew it. They absolutely knew it. But what we've seen recently from Brock, the part that I think is the most laughable was this offseason Trey Lance fan notion that Brock could not improve, that what we saw was a polished, finished product, and there was not going to be any improvement in year 2. And that was always based on nonsense. Everybody improves, and you improve the most in the NFL from year 1 to year 2. And especially if you're playing kind of a cerebral position, like either inside backer or quarterback, if you're wearing the green dot on defense, or if you're part of the decision-making process on offense, I mean, the improvement curve is significant from year 1 to year 2. And for people to come out last year in the offseason, or this offseason, and be like, yeah, Brock can't get any better. It's like, dude, just quit giving opinions on football altogether, because you're wrong in like one of the most core elements of professional football. And you're so unbelievably wrong that you just need to shut up. I mean, it's just like, it's really bad. And so that to me was the most offensive take of the offseason, which is that Brock Purdy, a 23-year-old kid who does nothing but work at his craft and thinks football around the clock, couldn't get better. And I remember when I asked him that question in May at the minicamp, I said, Brock, describe where you're at right now inside Kyle's offense compared to where you were at last May. And he's like, oh my God. He was like, he was like, Krug, it's a night and day. Last year, I literally walked to the line of scrimmage in May.
You call you Krug? You say Krug.
I think he might have said Krug.
Right.
But he's like, you know what? I walked to the line of scrimmage, and I'm like, I couldn't even remember the plays. I could barely spit them out with the verbiage. Now it's like I know nuances of coverage and what I'm looking for and key elements pre-snap. How they react to the shift, how they react to a potential motion, the coverage, what side we're sliding the line, the protection, everything. There's so many elements that I have down now that I'm so far advanced. And just hearing that question or hearing that answer, I remember thinking, wow, this guy is going to be quite a bit better this year. And what we saw yesterday, Damon, he became the first 49er quarterback and only the 22nd quarterback in the history of the NFL to finish with that 158.3 perfect passer rating with a minimum of 25 attempts. And it's just amazing. 333 yards yesterday, 21 of 25 for 3 touchdowns, no picks, second week in a row, no picks. And you just mentioned over his last 2 games, he's completed 78% with 6 touchdowns and no picks, going up against Jacksonville and Tampa, 2 defenses that are right there among the league lead at takeaways, and he didn't give it away one time. And he started the day by throwing 4 incomplete passes and taking a sack in the first drive. And then didn't miss a beat, finished 21 of 25. So I mean, the guy right now is playing at a really, really high level. I think, so many of the Eagles, Damon, took the 49er dialogue after the NFC Championship game as like disrespectful, but it really wasn't disrespectful. Looking back at it and talking to some of the players, it was their belief in Brock Purdy and their belief in what they could potentially do with Brock Purdy that fueled those comments. It wasn't like, the Eagles suck and we can't come to grips with the fact that they beat us. It was that, hey, you know what? We think our guy's kind of pretty damn good. And we didn't have him. And then we went to a third string guy, and then we had no guy at all. And you beat us on the road. But you know what? If Brock hadn't gotten hurt, we think that game would have gone different. That was an honest opinion from Debo, from Kittle, and from anybody else who stood up and said it. And it played like the Niners won't give the Eagles their flowers. The Niners won't give the Eagles respect. The Niners, no. It was really rooted in they have a belief that they can beat anybody on any day with Brock Purdy. And I think we're going to see it in Philly in a couple weeks. Obviously the Seattle game's first on Thanksgiving, then Philly. But I feel great about the Niners' chances of winning in Philly. I think the Niners know that they kind of talked a big game, and they're going to fire big against the Eagles in Week 13. I'm convinced of it.
It's got Game of the Year written all over it. It's got NFL Game of the Year written all over it.
Maybe tonight is. Maybe tonight.
NFL Game of the Year might be kicking off at Arrowhead. Eagles and Chiefs Monday Night Football. That's a monster.